am Nigel Matthew and I run an advertising and digital marketing agency called Disha Communications. On behalf of the Ad Club Bangalore, a warm welcome to all of you for joining in today's session on the YZ Factor. For those of you who are new to these sessions, the Bangalore Ad Club has been organizing a series of webinars in the past few weeks. And these webinars have been on advertising, media, and communication, and how it is going to evolve. This is something we plan to continue to do, so feel free to share your feedback, but more importantly, write to us and let us know any new and important areas in which you want us to cover in the near future. For all non-members, we are inviting you to become a member of the Ad Club Bangalore. So please log on to our website, adclubbangalore.net. I repeat, adclubbangalore.net, and also follow us on our social media pages. Before we get started, a few ground rules. One, we request all participants who are here to mute their mics and also to switch off their videos to avoid any disturbance and to help the seamless relay of the session to go on. If you face any problems logging on to Zoom, remember that we are also streaming live on our Facebook page, the Ad Club Bangalore. So you can watch it from there as well. Lastly, whatever questions you have, please type the same in the chat box below and we'll surely try and cover as much as we can in the latter part of the session. Now, getting back to today's topic, the YZ factor. We coined this name in relation to the Y and Z generation demographic. As young and ambitious advertising leaders of tomorrow, it's important for us to share our ideas on what the new normal should and would be in the near future. So stick with us as Zubin and I speak to some of India's brightest young advertisers. First up, we have Anvesha. She fell in love with the world of advertising after experiencing the agency life during her first internship at Ogilvy, Bombay. She started there as a finance intern and soon moved to the business side thanks to her love for brand communication. A couple of years later, with a post-graduation degree in marketing and communication in hand, she stepped right into advertising. Here, she's had contrasting experiences from B2B advertising in Saatchi Focus and B2C to digital in Wunderman Thompson. She spent 4 satisfying years in advertising so far and hopes for 40 more, being modest. Lover of art forms, she also dabbles a bit with making music and is a mother of 2 lovely furry babies. Her latest creative serendipity is to make snackable music videos with numerous editing softwares. Welcome again. Next up, we have Sneha. If Instagram wanted to replace their guess gibberish filter to guess 90s ads, they would probably contact Sneha. She used to be the girl who wouldn't let people switch channels so she could watch these ads. And while the world of ads, celebrities, events, movies, all fascinated her, she kind of stumbled upon the industry during her post-graduation from Symbiosis. With 4 years in the industry, her current role helps her ideate and create solutions for brands by integrating customer insights with pop culture, thus providing the brand a partnership opportunity that helps them to be relevant to their consumers. Having worked on a few award-winning campaigns, she hopes to shine in the ecosystem by creating newer creatives and more innovative avenues for brand associations. Beyond work, she is an avid reader and is currently obsessed with Indian mythology. Wow.
Hi.
Hi. Next up, we have Ankita. Her debut in the world of media goes back 2 years. Fresh out of Mika Ahmedabad, she's been working on media strategy, insights, and recently dived into the deep end of digital. When media is not around, lots of football is. She's sometimes on lucky weekdays and assured weekends are all about playing football and keeping fit. All this is interspersed with exploring all Bangalore's cafes for some great food and conversation. Welcome.
Thank you.
Last but not the least, we have Zubin, my co-host and good friend. After several flings with different industries, Zubin joined Dentsu Web Chutney, Bangalore, as a copywriter to finally pursue a career in advertising, which he was drawn to since college. And what he would like to tell everyone was binge watching Mad Men. Zubin has worked on numerous award-winning campaigns and was Dentsu Web Chutney's fastest award-winning creative, having won the world's most prestigious advertising award during his time there, including 2 Cannes Lions. It is often to forget that Zubin has no prior experience or formal education in advertising. In his free time, he enjoys singing, acting, beatboxing, and is also on his way to become a top social media influencer on all platforms. Thanks for hosting this session with me, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for that. In addition to that, I would also like to add that this is my first time co-hosting a panel discussion. I honestly never thought this day will come. Thank you to the one of us. All right. So I just like to thank everyone for joining us today. To all the participants who feel like they have something to absorb and learn today. I really hope that all of us can do justice here. So really quickly, we'll just jump right into it. I just wanted to ask you, Sneha, Anvesha, and Ankita, how has this whole COVID period, the lockdown and all of its effects, like how has it affected you personally? Sneha, would you like to go first?
Sure. So actually for me, it's been really different, right? Like I'm at home after 6 long years for more than just 10 days at a stretch. So it's been a very interesting change. Like I don't think there's ever been a situation where my dad's always just been at home and he's always been around and he's not been preoccupied. So the 70 days of the lockdown was actually a lot of family time, doing household chores and together and learning to give each other space in that atmosphere. Lifestyles have changed. It was an interesting thing to adapt with each other. And it's actually been more about me and my parents. It's definitely affected me, but mostly for the better and in a positive way. So I have no complaints.
Definitely. I think I can definitely agree with you there. Like this whole spending more time with family. I think my parents are the happiest about this lockdown more than anyone else. They're like, oh, we finally get to see us. And nowadays when I'm talking to my relatives, they're like, oh my God, what a surprise. You're here. So I think that's been fantastic. Just spending more time with family. I think a lot of people have gotten into a lot of self-development as well. But we'll get to that in a bit. Anvesha, how's the lockdown been for you?
So I initially was in Bangalore and was making a quick weekend visit to Calcutta to meet my father for his birthday. When the lockdown was announced, so I wanted to surprise him, and I got a huge surprise in return, right? So then I was there for the next 3 months, and I've been in boarding school all my life, so my dad has clearly told me like this is probably the longest I've stayed at home since I was 8 years old. So it was really nice. But towards the end, since I was looking to come back to Bangalore, it was quite a struggle. I think I would have booked endless tickets on all the airlines possible just to get back to Bangalore. And that was an experience on its own, which maybe I'll tell you guys later. But yeah, so now I'm back in Bangalore in the last 2-3 weeks, and it's nice. For me, it's like lockdown all over again because I'm figuring out a new schedule now that I'm back home and I don't have family around. But yeah, it's interesting. We've learned new things in the last couple of months.
That's amazing. Is it different? Like, would you rather be in Calcutta? Would you like, is it fine over there? Would you rather be in Bangalore? Sorry.
Well, if it were up to me, I would spend 3 months in Calcutta and 3 months in Bangalore. I don't know if that's feasible, but yeah, you want a mix of both. You obviously want your family around, but I have my fur babies here in Bangalore, so it was important for me to come back to them. So yeah, it's a mix of both, I would say.
Okay. And Ankita, how's it been for you?
My story actually has been completely different because this is the longest time I stayed away from home. So Delhi is home, but for these couple of months, my 2 BHK in Bangalore was my universe. And it's been quite a ride. I think this was a time when things like multitasking became a non-negotiable thing to have.
and of course, jumping onto so many new experiences, hobbies, and just coming out as a more self-sufficient person. I think that has been really exciting. I think I'm better off after all these months, and I survived. So yeah, good experience.
That's amazing. Okay, so obviously, when you're at the office, there are a lot of ways to keep yourself motivated. Like you have those brainstorm meetings, you talk to your friends, you talk to clients all the time. You're always in a really busy environment, but that's not really the case when you're at home. So I just want to understand, like, how have you guys, what have you done to keep yourself motivated? Because I mean, it can become a little bit of a drag being at home the whole time. So, is there anything interesting that you've done to keep yourself motivated?
I think a lot of things, a lot of to and fro. So I think one of the most interesting things that I did was, so I love playing football. Okay, so I'm always outdoors, right? And I could sense that playing a contact sport is not going to be a reality, anytime soon, right? So quickly before the lockdown started, I was just observing one day, sitting in my balcony, looking at this empty space, right? And I was quick enough to order a punching bag from Amazon. I was like, okay, I'm going to have YouTube. I'm going to have this. I think I can do this. So just, making the most of whatever resources are available and in line with my interests. I think that was one of the most interesting things I did. I think it could have taken a few more punches from my end, but it's work in progress. So I think that was interesting.
I think a lot of people have actually taken to home fitness these days. And that's amazing. I mean, I still can't motivate myself to do it, but I'm glad that like people are actually doing it. I know, Nigel, you're really big on fitness. So have you like
Absolutely.
been focusing on that a lot more in your free time?
Absolutely. I think I can't start my day without like a good workout or playing some sport or something, because my entire day is, I can't focus, I can't think. So that's something that always has to be there almost every day, if not every day. So
Nice.
that's what
Anvesha, for you?
I did 2 weeks of working out at home for the first 2 weeks because I was very motivated. And after that, I used that time to watch an extra episode of my favorite show on Netflix. So I don't think I really stuck to my fitness plan. But yeah, otherwise, I think how it's kind of changed for me, at least during this period, is before COVID, I was always on the run. I would wake up and perhaps get maybe half an hour, 40 minutes for breakfast and rush to work. And everything was on the move. We spent so many hours in traffic, right? So now I've given myself a proper schedule, and I figured that I have so much more time in the morning to get a few extra things done, even cook a meal, which I never thought I had time for. So I think working on a new schedule is something that is added to my life in general, or my day in general.
Nice. And Sneha?
So for me, fitness, no, I haven't done anything in that space. I tried, but I clearly did not succeed. But what I've done is like, so I have like a window outside, like, and it's got an extended sill. So I've just put like a lot of plants, and that's become like my going out kind of a thing. So whenever I want to step out of the house and I can't, I just go and sit over there, and nobody's allowed to come over there. And that's just my space. That's what keeps me motivated every single day. It's like a small garden area.
Nice. Very cool. So I'll tell you what I've been doing. Like recently, the Premier League for the English Premier League is back. So I'm super happy about that. I was so stoked that it's back. I'm back on my F fantasy squad, and I'm waiting to kick some ass. But also, there's something that I've always wanted to do. Like I always had this little dream of becoming a content creator. So I think like I've seen a huge rise in the number of people just creating their own content. And I mean, although it's hard, it's just something I hope that works out. Okay, let's get into a little more to the brand side, right? I just want to understand, like, obviously, it's a very serious issue, right? And we have to be wary of all of it. So, what are your thoughts, Sneha? We'll start with you. What are your thoughts on brands actually advertising at a time like this? Do you think sometimes it's safer to not say anything, or do you think like a brand needs to be a part of the conversation?
See, very honestly, I just think it depends on what the product is and what the brand's tonality has always been. Like, I would hope an outdoorsy brand would not be talking about, come on, get outdoors. But they would be like, it's okay, the outdoors is always going to be there. You can just stay indoors for now and stay safe. At the same time, I feel if there are brands that have always been in the social and righteous space, or if they have a product that, is currently in the need of the hour, I hope they would talk. And sometimes I feel what happens with us, no, like as a part of the industry, we actually forget that there's an outdoor lens, and there are actually, through communication, a lot of consumers feel better about the situation, or they feel more hopeful or less alone in the entire space. So more than taking a call on whether or not brands should communicate, I think it's just about finding the correct thing to say to people, and that's the way they should go about it. So that makes it safer. That's what the deciding factor to be safe should be.
Okay, so obviously stay contextual to your brand and be careful about the current realities, right?
Correct.
Anvesha, do you think that in your experience, do you think there's been a shift in communication strategy from brands around the world?
So picking up from what Sneha was saying earlier, in my personal observation has been, while this happened initially, when a lot of brands were putting out a social message out there. So they kind of, the entire phase is broken down into 4 parts in my observation. The first part, where brands were the ones who wanted to keep quiet kept quiet. The ones who wanted to put out a message, they would be of the nature of sanitization and safeties and masks and things like that. Beyond, after a point, I think certain brands, after putting that social message out there, decided to keep quiet and understand what the others are doing. Sure enough, there were players who were putting out a lot of interesting communication during this period. Towards the part of the stretch, I suppose brands were trying to get a little authentic and try to figure out how they could talk to their consumers, in the sense, for example, I saw a really nice campaign which was done by Wildcraft. So they obviously have these branded masks that they are promoting right now. So Hum Taiyar Hai, I think that was the campaign line. So I'm assuming brands are trying to find that connect with their own products, which is related to and is sensitive to the current scenario that we are all living in. And the other thing I noticed, which is probably what's happening right now, a lot of brands have suffered in terms of sales, right? So they are figuring out a way to kind of come up with these offers or something that's interesting, something that the customers would be drawn to. So I think it's the communication has changed over the last 3.5 months, and I think it's somewhat broken down like that. That's my opinion of how that communication has been.
I think you actually hit the nail on the head with the Wildcraft example, because I mean, okay, case in point, I have a Wildcraft mask right here, right? And
Right.
it's unreal. I've actually, when if I have gone out to get some groceries, I've seen like about 75% of the people with the same mask. And I was just wondering in my head, I'm like, what has Wildcraft done so well that they've reached such a wide audience, right? But thank you for shining some light on that. Ankita, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the shift in communication strategy has been like.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I've been observing this for a while now, as I'm in a media agency. So a very interesting thing that was happening was, see, a lot of buying right now, right, is getting molded because of the availability, right? Earlier also this was the case, but now the dependence on availability is so much more. I think you guys must have also experienced this, that the usual brand that you were buying is suddenly out of stock, but you need that product, right? So what do? You are starting to flirt with brands. Okay, if this X is not available, let's go for Y. So what is happening was, let's talk about the hero which got replaced, right? Let's say my favorite brand got replaced and I went ahead with some other brand. For that brand, I think rather than the what of the communication, it is very important to at least be present in their mind, right? If you suddenly go media dark, right? If you're not talking to them, right? Suddenly they might just start forgetting you. Okay, the new brand, it works for me. Let's just experiment more with it. And if you talk about the underdog who replaced the hero, right? For them, it's a time to shine, right? You talk more to them. If you bought my shampoo, try my conditioner. I'm as good as the hero, right? So I think going media dark in such times it's very risky, as per my opinion. And like Sneha and Vesha said, that find your context. There must be something, even if your category has become redundant or irrelevant. Find that context. Tell them how you probably are becoming ready for the time you will use that product or you will engage with that category. So I think it's very, very important, for brands to talk, right? Just have that conversation, right? With the right
Right.
context.
Right, absolutely. Obviously, like we do need to keep having that conversation to stay relevant. But do you think, in terms of your own clients at your agencies, have you seen a shift in the medium of advertisement itself? have you seen, obviously, like people haven't been out of their house for about 3 months. So digital has kind of seen a meteoric rise, right? So have your brands adopted more of a digital first strategy? Sneha, we can start with you.
So I think that's actually not just like any set of brands, but across clients, I mean, they have gone for a digital first or a like digital approach because it makes a lot more sense. That's where the consumer is actually spending the most amount of their time on, right? So yes, we do think that there's been a huge shift or a huge rise in the kind of digital conversations that brands want to have. And yeah, that's a great place to be. I mean, we've all been talking about digital for the longest time. And now I think that more and more brands want to shift a huge chunk of their spends as well.
Okay.
In fact, one of, with respect to uh, discovering the importance of digital, I feel like now some of the clients, they've obviously had their personal social media accounts like their Instagram handle and other things, but they weren't really optimizing or using it so efficiently. Now they want to do that. Now they want to, build it was basically digital. I felt the platform in itself was an added on to the traditional media that one brand would put out. Now somehow it is really upping the game. I mean, the digital is really helping any other form of communication. And I think brands are learning that now. And I think this last couple of months have given them, they want to learn more and they want to do more on their digital presence. So yes, definitely that shift is there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have experience of working on FMCG accounts, and there's so many of times they're built on the backbone of traditional media, right? So they'll have that inertia to spend a lot more on the digital medium. But yes, during these times, you can see that brands are warming up not only to go on digital, to experiment with formats, right? You see a lot of brands now coming up with, so many of those TikTok challenges, right? Getting billion views. I've seen Dettol, I'm seeing Mintra ERS sale. Everything is, people are warming up to experimentation. So I think that's a great sign. And it's a great way for brands to get familiar with this kind of an audience, which is digital first. So yeah.
Okay. Super. All right. Moving on to the next one. With everyone stuck at home, I think we've all experienced a little more free time. And it's at times like these that we've realized the importance of entertainment in our lives, right? And thanks to this constant need for some form of entertainment, we've seen like this huge rise in people spending their time online, on social media platforms, on online games, even OTT platforms. So what are your takes on this? How do you think brands have adapted to this? I'll give you a quick example. For example, Travis Scott did this little partnership with Fortnite. Fortnite is a game that's a little like PUBG. It's a first-person shooter, right? And what they did is they got everyone into a room, and Travis Scott actually hosted the first concert within the game itself to release a couple of new songs. So that I felt like was a beautiful partnership and a really new way to put your message across and make yourself relevant at a time like this in terms of the platforms that people are spending time on. So with more people spending time online, on OTT, on social media platforms, what is your take on this, Anvesha?
Um, so, I mean, I'm wondering whether I should speak as an agency person or as a consumer. But if I were to speak as a consumer, I think that shift in our preferences happened when Netflix came to India, which was a couple of years ago, like back in 2016. So I think our patterns had changed back then. What was new within this, the behavior of my father. Basically, I spent so much time with my father, and I realized he was so used to watching the news and stuff like that, or channels like TV. His from a consumer point of view, his behavior changed. So that I would say is a huge change. I think people, all of us over here, we were anyway on social media. We were anyway watching all these platforms. If I have to speak from a brand perspective, a very small thing which I was reading the other day. So Panasonic, so right now there is no need to buy, or people are not really, consumers are not finding the importance of going and buying on an AC or like a fridge or whatever it is that they want, TV right now. So Panasonic started doing these little snackable DIY videos where they are teaching you how to service your own AC, how to clean your own AC, small things. So they're trying to build that relevance and stay connected to the consumers, and they're doing it like, I was playing a game and it came as an ad, even in between while I'm scrolling through social media. So they're finding different platforms. So I think that's nice. I mean, they are everywhere.
Okay. Ankita, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things that I observed with my age group was we were blindly chasing content. It was not about the platform, right? In my particular house, two people living, we have over 7, 8 subscriptions, paid subscriptions, right? So the moment I get to know a Patal Lok has, is live on Prime, I'm going to run towards Prime. The Last Dance is live on Netflix, I'm going to run towards Netflix. Miscellaneous platforms as well. So I think this was very interesting. While probably our parents are moving from televisions to OTT, right? We are just chasing content. Give me great content, and I'll be there at your platform. So I think this was very interesting for me to, observe. Especially that was happening with myself as well. So I was like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sneha?
So yeah, I actually agree with both the points. It was a different change for me altogether to see my mom and dad come to me and be like, can we just watch this, or can you connect the television? Can we watch this now? Can we watch that now? And that was something that they were enjoying. And exactly like Ankita said, right? Like I was only subscribing to 2 OTT platforms, and then suddenly I realized that I want to watch something else and I want to watch something new. And suddenly I have like 5 or 6 subscriptions with me right now. And even apart from that, I thought like brands were doing some interesting things. So while you were talking about Panasonic, even so while our parents still want to watch something on TV and they do switch on the television, I think what ITC is doing with creating recipes online is all like creating recipes for the television is also a great thing. Their partnership when they're doing different things, because a lot of our parents are actually going. If you look at the search histories, you will see that DIY and how to make this and how to make that kind of searches have actually gone up. So now to actually use that insight and create a television show out of it, I think it's working wonders for them, and something that brands are doing in interesting ways.
Fantastic. And while we're on entertainment, I think the one person who's absolutely nailed it in terms of creating content is Danish Seth. So who is your favorite Danish Seth character?
Oh, I think I love Jaya. Like she's so cool. I love her attire, her voice, everything. I love Danish Seth, but I think Jaya is a new funny character. It's just a value add,
My personal favorite is the Bakri. When tumhari pyari Bakri.
Oh my God, yeah.
Even
I love the one with the costumes. Sorry, Sneha.
Even the one where he's put out a resume, right, saying that he's a sexy housekeeper and the things that he can do and cannot do and why he should be hired. That's hilarious.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. With everyone staying at home, a lot of products and services, I feel like have become replaceable, like we touched upon, or almost like close to irrelevant. So how do you guys feel that the buying behavior as a consumer, how do you feel the buying behavior has morphed? Are there any products or services that you feel have become obsolete or just not as important as we thought they were? Because, I mean, I'll tell you my personal example, like I would at least shop for clothes or shoes quite often before this. But then when I was staying at home, I was like, wait a minute, this is such an add-on. Like, this is not really that important. So do you guys have examples like this from your life and your experiences?
We have 3 girls on the panel. I'm sure that they're all going to have the same answer for that.
Yeah. But also, I'd like to add that I think for the first time in years now, I'm thinking about, getting a vehicle of my own, because I'm not sure how comfortable I'll be using the Ubers around. Like, of course, I have to resort to them if I have no option, but I'd be more comfortable. I'm guessing that there would be plenty of people right now who'd want to buy their personal vehicles and not, so buying a car right now is really up in my list of things that I want to do, because I don't want to use cabs very soon yet.
Okay. Ankita?
I think, yeah, like Sneha said, I think the way we're going to look at salons and all those services is going to really change, because I think all of us really understood that, there's so many hacks. We can do this on our own. And,
Right.
So anyway, we used to have those apprehensions with this industry because it's so much contact, right? I think just, learning how to fish is the motto, right? I think we all understood that everything can be a do it yourself, right? So probably either figuring out how to do that or just getting an, appliance that could solve your problem. I think I am gonna, the way I look at the grooming side of things, especially I know so many of my guy friends who just did their own hairdo, right? Shave their heads. So I think people are going to be more experimentative and open. And Zubin, clothes will never stay irrelevant.
Oh.
Let me tell you. Throw us a good sale and you will see.
Oops.
For the better times to come, we'll be prepared. So yeah, what do you think,
Sure.
Sneha?
Yeah, completely. I think for me, it's just that if there's something convenient, which I still want to do those basic things. My lifestyle hasn't changed, but if there's something that added a layer of convenience, I'm okay to not do that. Like, for instance, it was always easier to call the waxing lady home and get yourself waxed, but it's okay. I mean, I still want to wax. I'll just use a razor or an epilator now. It's just, I still want that. It's just about the convenience factor changing. I'm willing to put in the extra effort. So,
Very interesting. Very cool.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I feel that I don't think any of these brands would actually completely go obsolete, because like we were talking about, you name any brand, they can always find an out of the box way for them to, talk to their customers again. So
I guess that's where we come in.
exactly.
I think it's going to
Do
be a
not-
war between the brands.
Yeah, do not make us obsolete. That's the next brief we're all gonna get.
Yeah.
Wildcraft did that, like I was just talking about. They are known for all their outdoor stuff, but yet they came up with masks which are doing extremely well. So it's just out of the box thinking, I guess.
Superb. I think that's a great segue into the next question. Anvesha, you actually brought up the fact that you want to buy yourself a vehicle, right? Because you don't trust Uber. The next question was actually going to be, what brand do you think stood out in a time like this? And I personally liked Uber's work quite a bit. They did this digital campaign which is called Safer for Each Other, and basically it was a message to the a message to the consumer to take all the possible safety precautions, because our drivers are taking every possible safety precaution. They are sanitizing their cars, their seats, everything. So as a consumer, we'd love for you to do everything that you can possibly. Wear a mask, sanitize yourself. If you're coughing, cough into your elbow, right? So I thought their campaign, which was Safer for Each Other, was actually a fantastic job in kind of bringing the community together and helping people understand that we all play a part in building a safer tomorrow, right? So that was actually a brand or a brand piece that actually stood out for me. Do you guys have examples of brand work that stood out to you in this time?
So, did you watch the Emirates ad? That really stood out for me, right? Like, they came up with this, I think, right in the beginning of the lockdown, where they started talking about how 8 to 9 months from now, we're going to be talking about how do you remember the time when you used to be indoors? Do you remember the time when, schools shut down and you had to do everything online? I really liked the tonality of that. I thought it was extremely hopeful, and they were like, it's going, like, this is, even though this is your new normal, this will feel like the normal very soon. I really liked that communication. It stood out extremely for me.
Okay.
Interesting. I think for me, so I think a lot of brands did really good work, but I think the brands which stood out for me were the ones which sustained, right? Who were there with me for a period of 2 months, talking to me continuously, even when they probably were not relevant in my life. I think one of my favorite examples would be what Cult did. I think the way they just executed themselves, right? So I think starting with the lockdown, they made all their classes available free of cost, right? The fanciest of classes were free on their platforms, right? And it was very brave, because that was at a time when the company was bleeding. All their on-ground operations were shut, right? It was very brave, and I think I absolutely loved it. Lots of respect for that brand. And I think it was very strategic also, because they were conditioning me, to get used to that that setting. Like, you can have so many more activities in your repertoire, take yoga, take boxing, take all of this. And probably when time is better, you can come back to me. So I think it was strategic also and very brave. So I think lots of respect for Cult there. Yeah.
Very cool. Anvesha, any brand that stood out to you?
Okay, sorry, I was on mute. So yeah, I saw this little campaign that BBH India put out through emojis. It was a very simple message. Of course, this is not relevant to I mean, this was like a social message which they put out where they spoke about don't spread hate, and it was communicated through emojis. That is one thing. I was just very recently I saw the campaign very recently actually, and I figured that the format or the way it was executed was so simple. It was done through emojis. Any of us can do it on our own WhatsApp, so we don't really need huge production or any kind of extra work that we put in for our day-to-day work for our clients, but it was executed so beautifully. So I think that really stood out for me. Of course, it's a social message, a social issue that we talk about. There were a lot of actually social issues that really stayed with me because it was an emotional moment for all of us in the last couple of months. So yeah, so I would say some of the brands that put out social communication, that kind of stayed with me.
Nice. I saw these ads as well, and I thought it was really ingenious, right? Like it was so
Right.
simple, and I actually loved that piece of work. Okay, let's quickly move on from brands. What is your opinion on working from home, Sneha?
I actually really like it. So it started off with me enjoying the fact that I'm home and I'm working from home and things like that. And now suddenly it's shifted to the fact that, okay, I want to go back because it's so much easier to have conversations around work at office. Like if I have to ask you something, I can just look over and ask you. I don't have to pick up the phone. I don't have to wait for you to be free and things like that. So it started off with me liking it. I think I'm still going to be okay with it, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Have you guys noticed like a shift in working hours? In addition to just the whole list of additions that work from home has introduced us to.
Yeah,
What
there's
working hours?
there's no
There's
schedule.
no.
There's no EOD
What are you
anymore.
saying?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think when you're working from the offices, you know how at the end of the scene there's a cut wrap. Where is that right now? I think it just feels like you've been doing that one activity throughout your day, and the other activities are interspersed. Like you can eat, probably watch something. So I miss that cut and that feeling. But yes, again, like Sneha said, that fluidity of knowledge sharing, I miss that a lot. I can just walk up to Sneha, talk to her that, okay, what do you think about this? That's something that's missing. But yeah.
I
I
think we're
think
all, yeah.
I
Sorry,
think
I mean,
coming from a servicing background, I love this structure. I mean, I hate that there are no EODs, but I love that I don't have to really hound the creatives for work. I can, if I set up an invite, a meeting invite, and they're not there, so I'm actually liking the fact that I don't necessarily, coming from a business background, yes, some brainstorming sessions here and there do help, but I don't do that on a daily basis. I would much rather work with my laptop, work with my phone and a book, like I was telling you guys earlier as well. And I'm more focused. I know what to do. I can plan my day. I don't have to change my schedule around so much. So I think I love this. I could get used to this. I've not gone back to work yet, so I'm happy to not go back for some time. So yeah, I in fact find myself more productive at home. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, even I do, So I think like it used to be 9 to 5, and now for me, it's become more like I want to work at night because I feel I'm most productive at night. And I think I've shifted that by choice, saying that this is my time when I'm most productive, and that's when I'm going to work. So I quite like it.
I actually try to adopt a very similar strategy. Even like you, Sneha, I feel like I work best in the night because it's so quiet and peaceful.
Yeah.
But then that just affects the whole body clock, and then you have to be up at 10, and then client servicing is calling you like, "Hey, bro, what's happening with this?" So I think personally for me, honestly, I absolutely loved work from home when it started. I didn't have to make any excuses about being late to work, no getting stuck in traffic, no getting caught by traffic police. And all I had to do was wake up 2 minutes before 10 o'clock and turn on my laptop. So I think
Yeah.
that was the best part of it. But as we progressed, I think what started to happen was like Ankita mentioned, right? Like at the end of it, you have a cut. That hard stop started to become a little more invisible. Like you keep getting calls a little later. So I think that's interesting. Do you think that we could actually adopt a work from home, work from office kind of model in the future? Do you think there's any merit in that? Ankita, I'll let you start.
Oh, absolutely. I think the most beautiful thing that came out of this was now everybody knows that efficiency will not be compromised, right? I don't think so. I think all of us would agree. We did not feel like, there was an issue in the product that was going out, right? I think we were even more productive, right? I think that will help in actually finding a middle ground where, like you said, this setup could definitely work. I think it should be encouraged, right? If, half day you want to work and probably half day you feel like, okay, let's brainstorm at a cafe. Why not? As long as it works for the productivity, that should be, in fact, supported and encouraged. Yeah.
Super. Anvesh, I actually want to, because you have experience in account management, right? I actually want to understand how are clients adapting to this new work from home style of working? Have you seen a shift in the way that you guys interact with them, interact with the clients on one side and the creatives on one side? Like, has that been a bit of a challenge, or has it helped you actually work better?
So to start with, I don't think any kind of flexibility of deadlines or deliverables or the time that's given to you, none of that has changed. Clients don't change, as we all know. So what they want is what they want, and we give it to them. My interaction with the creatives have slightly changed because I feel like that everything has to be so systematic, right? You have to pick up the call on them, explain the agenda, or have plan a lot of things, a lot of coordination time. I mean, my job is to coordinate and to get things spaced out through the day, but I feel like now having to interact with both things, I don't think both sides, I don't think much has changed. um, yeah, I don't think too much has changed actually when it comes to interacting with both sides.
Okay, Sneha, do you think some things have changed?
I think the change has been more personal. Like if I know that it's going to take, if it's not just me who's supposed to be submitting that work, but if it needs 2 or 3 more people, you just set expectations very clearly from the beginning, saying that, I am going to need like maybe not 6 hours, but I'm going to need 8 hours to kind of give you that. So it's just about setting those expectations straight from the very beginning. And I think that's made it pretty easy. But flexibility wise, I do think clients have been a little flexible here and there. They haven't been.
Lucky you.
I think some of the clients have appreciated also. Like I whenever I interact with some of my friends also, I remember when we prepared this annual strategy deck for a client, and it's like a lot of hard work. At the end of it, they were like, "How did you do it? Working from home?" And we're like, "Ha, we did it."
Yeah, there's appreciation. Yeah,
there is appreciation, I think, and that's very heartwarming.
Another thing that we've noticed working from home is a significant rise in video calls, right? Video calls have become the norm today. And as the joke goes, do you think that video calls and emails have definitely replaced meetings?
100%.
Yeah, but I understand that once things start to ease out and we start to get back to our workplace places, I think we'll still want to do that. We'll still want that basic human touch, face-to-face meetings. It would, kind of comfort the clients, comfort our internal teams and everything. So while video calls is something that we may resort to about 80% of the times, we'll still need those face-to-face meetings that cannot really be substituted with anything else.
Okay. Okay, Sneha, then this next question is for you. I just want to ask you, what do you think the agency of tomorrow looks like?
Honestly, I think the agency of tomorrow is going to be a lot more people and client and team centric. I think it's going to be more like Ankita was saying, right? If you want to come into work, come into work. If I was supposed to decide, I'd probably be like, come to work every Monday, and then Tuesday to Friday, the team can decide whether they want to work from home, whether they think it's important to come to work. If you need to collaborate, then probably the smaller teams could meet. And I think that's what the agency of the near future would look like. And tech is going to be something which is going to be extremely important, because maybe while I still want to physically go for the meetings, maybe the client doesn't want to meet physically for the meetings. And maybe we need to set up more and more video and audio conferencing techniques within the organization as well.
Okay, thank you. Ankita, this one's for you. If you were made the CEO of an agency post-lockdown, what is the first thing you want to change?
Okay, I think, like we've already talked about the flexible work setting. I think, even apart from the COVID situation, I think a lot of times, in the everyday processes and, structures, the entrepreneurial drive goes. Because I think a lot of times you all have sat together and discussed about how a particular process can be made easier. Like, this just needs a beautiful dashboard and our lives will be sorted. I think such things should be encouraged and not just like, do it by the sidelines. Give us time, give us 2 weeks off, give us a project and let us work on it, right? Improving the efficiency of the company, which will in turn go to the brands. So I think this, just let us be entrepreneurs for some time, right? Give us time and support for that. So yeah.
Fantastic. Ankita, if this actually happens, I am sending you my resume. Please hire me. All right.
As a company owner, I'm keeping that point. I'm noting it down.
Nigel doesn't want to
Yes,
make any
done.
change.
Nigel, please take note.
Yeah, I have.
We can surprise.
Okay, I think we have about 11 minutes to go, so we'll just like start concluding this session. This is to everyone here. I think this was also a question from the audience. But what is your advice to young aspiring advertisers who might be watching this? Anvesha, we can start with you.
Dive into it, read more, watch ads, make it a fun thing rather than a study thing, and you'd be good to go. Just find that passion in it. I think that's the first key. And listen, just start listening. Keep your ears open. I guess that helps.
Nice.
Sneha, any advice to young budding
Yeah,
aspiring?
just to kind of add on to what Anvesha was saying, that I think it's very important for them to just observe and be completely up to date with whatever's happening new. So, for example, 6-7 months back, I don't think all of us were on TikTok, right? But it must have been a lot easier for somebody who is a lot younger to kind of learn it and come on it and do those videos than it was for us. Like, we did it because we had to do it. A part of us had to do it, so we did it. So I think just to observe and be completely up to date would really help them.
Okay, Ankita?
Be curious. You'll learn faster, right? Ask so many questions, irritate the people, and just be curious and be patient. I think we all are, sometimes we're very restless. We want to move really quickly, but I think it's very important to stay patient. If you've found an industry that you really like, learn the ground realities, understand the technicalities, right? You know the business better. It will only help. With a couple of few years, hustle and be patient and have fun.
Absolutely. I think I would agree with all of you. Before this, I never had a background in advertising. Working with Dentsu Web Chutney was actually my first. So, at first, even I thought it's a very daunting task. Like, am I cut out for advertising? Is this for me? I've heard that advertising industries in general have a high burnout rate. But I think my advice to people who actually believe that they have a creative side and want to try advertising is to just give yourself a shot. I think everyone deserves to give themselves a shot. And you may not, like, at first it's going to be really hard because it's a completely new industry that you're acclimatizing yourself to, right? But you have to just keep trying and trying and trying and just be persistent. Do a lot of research. I felt personally, for me, if I was at a creative roadblock, I think just watching all the winners. So what I would do is I would go to the Cannes Lion winners and I would just watch all the case studies. And like when you're doing that, you never know what kind of spark it'll ignite in your head. And honestly, like, research has helped me so much. It just helps you understand your idea better, your audience better. And it's true, sometimes advertising is a little hectic in terms of the working hours, but the payoff is absolutely fantastic. I think when you see your work out there and people actually starting to appreciate your work, there's no better payoff than that. So yeah, just like work hard and stick to it.
Right.
Okay. Very quickly, a little fun little session, because we've talked short enough, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick round of what I'd like to call guilty or not guilty. Okay. The rules are very simple. I'm going to say a statement, and all you have to do is say guilty if you've done that before. All right. Okay. So the first statement is woken up late to work.
Guilty.
I think we're all guilty of that.
Yes.
Okay. Worked out of bed all day.
Guilty.
Not
No,
guilty.
not
Not
guilty.
guilty.
Not guilty.
Guilty.
I'd be sleeping if I were in bed all day.
All
Absolutely.
you fitness enthusiasts. I work out of bed every day. Okay. How many of y'all have put yourself on mute and walked away from a meeting? turn video off.
Guilty.
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 Yeah.
Try to multitask.
Right.
Okay, how many have lied about household chores to take a break?
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Guilty.
Okay, any of y'all who might have drank during work hours?
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Guilty.
Okay, okay, I think that brings us to the end of all the questions. Nigel, are there any user questions that we would like to address?
Yeah, we can pick up a couple of the questions which are put up on the Q&A. Let me read out one. If you were to tell a CEO one thing based on your COVID learning, what would that be? That's a real thinker.
If I were to tell my CEO one thing about COVID,
Yeah, your learnings from it.
my learnings from it is that you can still achieve productivity with flexible work hours. So give it a shot and see if it works. That's what I see. I hope my CEO is watching this.
I'm just gonna stand behind you in that line when you're telling your CEO this and stay away from it. Yeah.
Zubin's
No,
idea.
I think from a company owner point of view, I completely agree with you, because I feel the old traditional way of your 9 to 5 jobs and stuff like that, I think we have to move a little away from it. And I think this COVID situation has opened the eyes to a lot of, I would say, the traditional thinking, not CEOs, people, I would say, to actually relate to more flexible hours, working from home. Because even if you had seen before this, a lot of companies said no to working from home, including mine. And this was a real eye opener for such companies. So yeah.
I think I would say relook at your consumer, because a lot of people have entered so many new categories. Like I know my kitchen right now. Okay, I'm involved. So you're going to talk to me as well, and not probably a particular age group you were talking to. So definitely relook at consumer.
True.
Any other questions, Nige?
So we can still go through other questions as well. Which is more important, data, insight, consumer, or brand?
Yeah, you want to take
Anyone?
An equal
Anyone.
balance of both, but I think in today's circumstances, the consumer is extremely important. Like typically, it used to be like you need to have a complete balance amongst all of them, but right now it's consumer first.
I completely
I
agree. I think the consumer behavior is what is most important, because as we've seen before COVID to now, the way they are actually moving forward is different, like from traditional cable TV to OTT now. So I think that's one way we need to, I think, yeah, consumer behavior is what is more important.
I think at a time like this, yes, your consumer is the most important because we're all in this together. And I think consumers will obviously take an importance over the brand, right? So in a time like this, definitely. But if you're talking about advertising in general, it's never which is more important between data, insight, consumer, or brand. I think they all need to definitely work hand in hand, because that's how you get a cohesive campaign with a clear understanding of your audience, with a clear understanding of the medium and the platform that you want to talk about, with a clear understanding of what the message is going to be based on your platform and audience. So I think you definitely have to focus on everything. And in fact, even when you submit award entries, right, even they categorize their entries in terms of what was the insight, what was the strategy, what was the idea, and what were the results. So I think they all work hand in hand, and I don't think you can prioritize one over the other.
Yes, I think that's very true. What would you say is the average age in each of your agencies, approximately?
Oh man, so Web Chutney, since the very beginning, has always been focused on developing young advertisers, right? Like they put a lot of importance on the youth. And I think I've heard, because it's my first stint in advertising, I've heard traditional advertising agencies, they go for experience, right? And they go for
That's why I'm not
experience.
answering.
And I think the approach that Web Chutney has taken is to have complete and utter faith in the crazy ideas that come out of the youth, right? So I think the average age at Web Chutney today, the Bangalore division, or actually across India, would be around 25 to 26.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
the average age. I'm not even joking. Yeah.
I think that's phenomenal. Mine might be double that. Yeah, which I'm trying to change. Second generation entrepreneur.
We have a CEO who's in his early 30s. We have an NCD who's 29. So I think Web Chutney is all about the young advertisers and what they bring to the table, because I think that's the future of advertising as well, right? If you're going to talk to them, you need to understand what will connect with them. So while I completely agree that experience does play a role, definitely it does, and that's more in terms of the craft of the entire message. That's where experience comes in. Like this is how you need to craft your message, or this is the perfect platform for it. But I think when it comes to ideas that will work and connect, there's no age limit to that, really.
Right. I think in Wonderman Thompson, though, we have a huge bunch of people who are at the age of 30 and below. So we have all these crazy, wacky ideas that's coming from the youth, but we have those really senior people from the industry who kind of is the backbone, and they tell us, this is what, and they help us structure. So I think a little bit of a balance in both also kinds of help build or mold the future for an agency in general. So that's the background that I am from. Well, I think also having an entire team of extremely young people could also be a nice, interesting change. But yeah,
That's great. Sneha, what book would you recommend for people who are trying to get into this industry or in your field?
Oh, into the industry. Actually, I'm reading a book right now called The Art of Thinking Clearly. And I'm sure a lot of people have already read it, but I think it's a book that everybody should read every 2 years, because it has one of the best insights that you can actually. Before the session, we were talking about hindsight bias and how we think that, we wouldn't have expected this or we wouldn't have expected that. That book changes every single time you read it. And I think you should read that book. Everybody should read that book.
Zubin, you read any books?
No, man, I'm not much of a reader. I just talk. If anyone wants advice, just come talk to me.
Yeah, honestly, even only during this lockdown, I've started reading again. But otherwise, even I'm not too much into reading of books or anything. There's a nice book called The Company of One, which I think everyone who wants to become an entrepreneur should start reading. It's really, really good. Radhika, you have something? You like any books here?
In terms of books, actually, I have a question for you guys. If that's okay?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, as as a part of Bangalore Art Club, right? One question from me is, what would you like industry bodies and art clubs like us to do for you guys? How can we be a part of your life?
Okay.
What would you like to see more of, rather?
Okay, I think if you want to talk to the youth, I think stuff like this is actually a perfect way to segue into that. I think just getting opinions from people who are younger on what they think the industry is about, because I think whenever you think of a panel discussion, a webinar, whatever, you always imagine someone who's very experienced, someone older, because you feel like they bring the rich insights, right? But that's not always true, because I think a lot of it, if you want to relate to them, you need to understand their problems, right? So I think seminars like this are a great first step to actually start building more of a connection with the youth.
Lovely, thank you for that. And anybody else? Sneha, Ankita, Anvesha?
I think, what I've experienced that, whenever I've sat with a veteran, even in a meeting room for 15 minutes, you walk out of that room feeling smarter. Like, okay, that was quick learning, right? So I think some master classes, right? Whereas webinars are there, but just, probably master classes on some sort of frameworks or best practices, great work. And I think stuff like that would really help, definitely.
I think getting to
Noted.
interact with these seniors or these veterans from the industry would really, help me build that confidence in myself to give back, perhaps. So I think interaction with some of the seniors of the ad clubs, that would help us.
Lovely. We'll facilitate a lot more of these. And Sneha?
Yeah, I think like just to add to what Ankita and Anvesha was saying, that it has, but not like in larger groups, like I would rather have a one-on-one or like a 5-6 of us interacting with one person, because that kind of gives you ample time. It could just be a 10-minute discussion, but that kind of gives you more valuable insights, in my opinion. So maybe things like that, like smaller groups of people just meeting over Zoom and having a discussion might help.
Lovely. Thank you all. I mean, I think this has been one of the best sessions and best webinars that I've kind of been a part of. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zubin, for co-hosting this with Nigel. Thank you so much. I mean, the kind of energy and the kind of discussions that were there, the camaraderie, the entire energy levels were just way out there. So thank you so much for this. I think we are almost out of time right now. So this is kind of, where we end. But we're going to have a lot more of these, and we're probably going to reach out to you guys, a few more times over the course of this year. So thank you. Just a quick thank you to our sponsors as well. So thank you to AdGully, and thank you to Media News for You. Right, so that's kind of the end of this session today. So, okay, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us.
Bye.